My name is Ethan Miller. I'm 39 years old, and I've spent my entire life chasing control. As a financial consultant, I built my career from the ground up, a man of routine and precision. I've always been the steady one in my family, stable, reliable, the safe bet. Unlike my older sister, Lily, who soared effortlessly to the top in the corporate world, I've always been the one people overlooked, the quiet one who never quite fit in. While she thrived in the spotlight, I stuck to the shadows, burying my frustrations in spreadsheets and late-night work. And maybe that's why it was so easy for her to betray me. But I never imagined it would come to this, her leaving me for him. Derek Warren. The man who's not just a CEO, but the one who now controls everything I thought I could trust. The moment Lily texted me, "Stop being so controlling, let me go on a trip with Derek," I knew something was off. But I never expected that everything I thought I knew about my marriage would come crashing down in the next few days. I moved out, but I should have known this was only the beginning. I sat there, staring at the phone, the screen glowing in my hands like some kind of final verdict. Her words echoed in my mind, each syllable like a strike to the chest. Stop being so controlling. How had it come to this? For years, I thought my obsession with control was just me being careful, responsible, but now, the truth was clear. It wasn't control, it was suffocation. It was late, too late, but I had to act. I grabbed my jacket, not even bothering to pack. I didn't know where I was going. Maybe it didn't matter. Lily, my wife of 10 years, had always been the one who was too busy, too ambitious for me. I'd always admired her drive, until it consumed her. The more successful she became, the more I felt myself fading into the background. It wasn't just about business anymore. It was everything. Every time I spoke, she seemed more distant. Every kiss was perfunctory. Every dinner was silence. And now, I was left with a phone in my hand and a sentence that changed everything. I needed air. I needed space to breathe, to think. I slammed the door behind me and stepped out into the cool night. My steps were quick, the weight of the night heavy on my shoulders. The apartment I stayed in wasn't mine, but it was a place I could disappear. Jake was a college buddy, more of an acquaintance now than a friend. But he had a couch, and sometimes, that was enough. He wasn't home when I arrived, which was just as well. I didn't need to explain myself. I paced the small space, trying to get my head together. Why did she do it? I kept asking myself. The logical part of me told me she had to have a reason. Was it Derek? Was she just too close to him? But the rest of me, the part that didn't want to face it, told me I was too far gone. She didn't just betray me emotionally, she was already planning her escape. I poured myself a drink, the ice clinking louder than my thoughts. I needed answers. Jake's knock on the door interrupted my spiraling thoughts. He pushed it open without waiting for me to answer. "Dude, what's going on?" He didn't ask how I was, didn't offer any pleasantries. The guy knew me too well. "She threw you out?" I didn't answer at first, letting the question hang in the air. "She wants to go on a trip with him," I finally said, my voice lower than I wanted it to be. "Derek Warren." I said his name like a curse. Jake nodded like he already knew. "Man, I told you there's no way she's just working with him. You've been blind to it." "Shut up." The words came out harsh, but I wasn't mad at Jake. I was mad at myself. "I'm serious, Ethan. This doesn't add up. You've been handling her like she's some kind of—" "Stop," I cut him off. "I need to figure out what's going on." The next morning, I did the only thing I could think of. I called an investigator. I didn't want to. I didn't want to admit how far gone I was. But I had to know. Was it just an affair? Or was there more? The thought of her leaving me for him, Derek, hurt enough. But if there was something illegal at play, something more than just betrayal, I needed to prepare. The investigator's name was Tom. He'd worked for a private security firm that handled corporate cases, the kind of stuff that didn't make the headlines but was always lurking beneath the surface. He was good at his job, and that made me feel better. At least one thing in my life felt under control. "I'll follow them, get you what you need," he said. I couldn't tell if he was being reassuring or simply matter of fact. It didn't take long before Tom got back to me. I was pacing again, my anxiety twisting tighter around my chest. The call came through, and my stomach dropped. "She's meeting him tonight," Tom said, his voice calm, almost too calm. "I'll send you the address in a bit." That was it. No more pretense. The truth was coming at me hard, and I was going to have to deal with it. Hours later, I found myself on a dark street, parked a few blocks away from the address Tom had given me. My hands gripped the steering wheel so tightly I thought the blood would stop circulating. I watched as Lily stepped out of a black car. She was wearing a red dress, the one I'd bought her for our anniversary last year. The sight of her made me feel like I was losing her all over again. She smiled when she saw Derek. He was waiting for her outside a hotel, the same hotel where I had first suspected something was off months ago. My phone buzzed, breaking the stillness in the car. It was a text from Lily. "I'm sorry, Ethan. This is the last time we can talk. It's over." I stared at the message, numb, before slamming my phone onto the passenger seat. It wasn't just her words, it was her distance. Everything in me screamed to confront her, to demand the truth, to get her back. But deep down, I knew I was losing her, and it was already too late. I watched them walk into the hotel together, my body frozen in the car, but my mind spinning. This wasn't just an affair. It was something bigger. She's not just going on a business trip. She's already left me. I watched them through the tinted glass of my car, Derek Warren's hand brushing the small of Lily's back as they entered the hotel lobby. I should have felt anger, betrayal, something. But all I could feel was a deep, gnawing void. It was a hollow place, the kind that comes when everything you thought you knew about the world shatters in an instant. This wasn't just an affair. I didn't know what it was, but I could feel the edges of a much darker truth pulling me into its orbit. I wasn't the kind of man to jump to conclusions. Or at least, I never thought I was. I had built my entire life on logic, on numbers, on facts. But this wasn't just about facts anymore. I pulled my phone out, fingers trembling. A message blinked on the screen, the hotel's booked under Derek's name. She's definitely in on this. It was from Tom, the investigator I'd hired a few hours ago. He'd been tracking Lily and Derek since they left the office. I could already feel the blood drain from my face. The phone buzzed again. A new text. "She's more involved than you think. There's a meeting tonight." Meeting? I stared at the message. The gravity of it hit me all at once. What meeting? Why wasn't she telling me? It was the same pattern. Lily had always been a bit secretive about work, but this was something else. I wasn't going to sit idly by. Not anymore. I shoved the phone back into my pocket and slammed the car into drive. The parking lot of the hotel was crowded, lights flashing in all directions as the evening rush of guests and taxis poured in. I parked a few blocks away, keeping my distance. I wanted to stay out of sight. Stay hidden, watch, observe. I had a plan now, a mission. It wasn't until I was standing across the street, staring at the hotel's grand entrance, that I realized I wasn't just watching Lily walk away from me, I was watching her walk into something much bigger, something I had no control over. There's always a price for knowledge, Ethan. Always a cost for the truth. The words echoed in my head, and I couldn't tell if they were my own thoughts or something I'd heard somewhere before. But it didn't matter. I had to know. Whatever they were doing in there, I was about to find out. I slipped into the lobby, my heart pounding with every step. The plush carpeting barely made a sound beneath my shoes. I felt like I was in a dream, no, a nightmare. The whole place seemed too clean, too polished. Everything was so perfect, it made my skin crawl. I moved through the crowd, trying to look casual, but I felt like everyone could see through me. Like they knew I didn't belong here. I reached the elevator and waited for the doors to open. When they did, I stepped inside, the soft hum of the elevator a strange comfort in the chaos I was feeling. I hit the button for the top floor. The doors slid open, and I immediately spotted them, Derek and Lily, standing near the window. Lily had her back to me, but Derek was facing the elevator. I froze, every instinct screaming at me to turn around, to leave. But I couldn't. Not when I was so close to the truth. Derek smiled, that smug, predatory smile I'd seen 1,000 times before in board meetings. But this time, it was different. He wasn't just playing the role of the powerful CEO. He was playing something else, something darker. He said something to Lily, and she laughed. A laugh that sounded too easy, too natural. It made me sick. I couldn't hear the conversation. I wasn't close enough. But I didn't need to. The look on Lily's face said everything. She wasn't just here for a business trip. I stepped back, hiding in the shadows near the stairwell. The adrenaline coursed through me as I watched them. The tension was unbearable, the silence deafening in my ears. I needed to know what they were planning, what they were saying. I pulled out my phone again, glancing at it before slipping it back into my pocket. A cold chill ran down my spine. Someone was following me. I turned slowly, the hairs on the back of my neck standing up. Across the hall, just beyond the elevator, a man stood by the door, watching me. Shit. I couldn't let him see me. I turned sharply, moving toward the stairwell. I knew the hotel well enough to navigate the back corridors, the service doors. I didn't want to take any chances. The footsteps behind me were too fast, too close. I reached for the stairwell door, slammed into it just as it swung open. A hand grabbed my shoulder, pulling me back. Hey! What the hell do you think you're doing? The voice was rough, gruff. It wasn't Derek. It wasn't anyone I recognized. But I wasn't about to stick around to find out. I shoved him off, twisting out of his grip and darting into the stairwell. The door slammed shut behind me. I ran down the stairs, my heart pounding in my chest, adrenaline fueling my every step. I couldn't tell if the man was still following me. My breathing was heavy, my mind racing. I had to get out. Had to get back to safety. I needed to get the hell out of here and back to the one place I thought I could find answers. The door at the bottom of the stairwell opened into an alley, dark and narrow. I took one last look behind me. No sign of him. But I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. The sense of danger was palpable. A cold sweat slid down my back as I slipped into the night. When I reached my car, I paused. The message from Tom flashed in my mind again, there's a meeting tonight. But this wasn't just a meeting. This was something else. Something dangerous. I slid into the car, slamming the door behind me. My hands were shaking, but I forced them to steady as I turned the key in the ignition. I wasn't done. Not by a long shot. The truth was out there. But the deeper I dug, the darker it got. And now, I couldn't back out. The streets blurred around me as I sped away. Lily's betrayal was just the beginning. The room felt too small, suffocating. My hands gripped the edge of the desk, my knuckles white. I hadn't felt this trapped in years. The truth was closing in on me, and with each passing moment, the walls seemed to shrink. Lily wasn't just involved in Derek's scheme, she was in the thick of it, and I had no idea how deep it went. I stared at the stack of papers in front of me, files from the investigator, confidential reports. But the most disturbing piece was the one that made my stomach churn, Lily's signature on a series of documents that tied her directly to a money laundering operation involving Victor Hayes, Derek's business partner. Trust no one. That's what my old boss used to say. He'd always been cynical, but now, I was beginning to understand why. The world I thought I knew was collapsing around me, and the worst part was that Lily, my wife, was at the center of it all. I couldn't decide if I was more angry, betrayed, or terrified. Each emotion fed the others, making my thoughts spin faster than I could catch them. I needed to see her. I needed to hear it from her. But the Lily I thought I knew wasn't the same woman I'd watched walk into that hotel with Derek. The woman standing in front of me now was a stranger. I could feel it in my bones. I texted her. The message was simple. We need to talk. I know everything. Her response came quickly. You're overreacting. I'll explain when I get home. But I couldn't wait. I was done waiting. I grabbed my keys, my heart pounding with each beat. I had to confront her, not over the phone or in some sterile office. I needed to look her in the eyes. I needed answers, and I wouldn't leave until I got them. The drive to the house was a blur. My mind raced with thoughts of what to say. What could I say? How do you confront your wife when you suspect she's been lying to you for months? The same woman you trusted with everything, your life, your future. The moment I pulled into the driveway, I saw her car and someone else's. A black sedan was parked in front of the garage. The unmistakable sleek curves of Derek's vehicle glinted under the dim streetlight. I froze. My pulse raced. I should have turned around. I should have left. But the words from the investigator echoed in my mind. They're planning something tonight. A meeting. If you don't act now, you might never get another chance. This wasn't just about an affair anymore. This was a full-blown conspiracy. And Lily was at the heart of it. I stepped out of the car and approached the front door. My breath was shallow, my movements deliberate, as if time had slowed down. The house, once a place of comfort, now felt alien, like a prison. The door was slightly ajar, and I heard voices from inside. Derek's voice, smooth and confident, mixed with Lily's laughter. It was like a punch to the gut. I pushed the door open just enough to peek inside. They were standing in the living room, facing each other, laughing, as if they had no care in the world. My world. Lily, I said, my voice cutting through the room like a blade. Her eyes widened in surprise, but there was no shame, no guilt in her expression. Instead, there was a flicker of something else. Defiance. Ethan, she said, almost too calmly. What are you doing here? Don't play dumb, I snapped. I know everything. About the meeting, the papers, the fraud. You're involved in this, Lily. Her face shifted, just a momentary crack in her calm facade. But it was enough. You don't understand, she said, her voice cold, defensive. I had no choice. No choice? My voice was rising now, filled with disbelief. You chose this. You chose him over me. You chose money, lies, and manipulation. Derek stepped forward, placing a hand on Lily's shoulder like he had every right to be here. You need to calm down, Ethan, he said, his voice dripping with false concern. This isn't helping anyone. You're just making things worse. I clenched my fists at my sides. The anger, the betrayal, it surged through me like a tidal wave. But beneath it, something darker was bubbling up. Fear. A deep, visceral fear that I didn't know who to trust anymore. You've been planning this all along, haven't you? I asked, my voice dangerously low. You and Derek. This was never about business. It's about control, isn't it? You've been using me to cover your tracks. Lily didn't answer right away. Instead, she glanced at Derek. A silent exchange. Something passed between them that made my blood run cold. You've got it all wrong, she said, stepping toward me. It's about survival, Ethan. You don't understand what's at stake. This isn't just about us. It's bigger than that. Bigger? I echoed, incredulous. Bigger than our marriage? Bigger than the life we built together? You're telling me this is all just some game to you? Her face hardened. It's always been a game. You just didn't realize you were the pawn. The words hit me like a physical blow. A pawn. I wasn't just a victim here. I had been played. But the question still lingered, who was the real player? Just as I opened my mouth to speak again, a sudden bang echoed through the house. A loud crash came from the kitchen, followed by the sound of shuffling footsteps. My heart skipped a beat. Someone else was in the house. Someone who wasn't supposed to be. I turned toward the noise, adrenaline surging through my body. There was no time for explanations, no time for more lies. I was going to get to the bottom of this, no matter what it took. I moved toward the kitchen, my mind already racing with possibilities. What was going on? What was Lily hiding? Then, everything froze. A figure stepped out of the shadows in the doorway. My breath caught in my throat. It wasn't just anyone. It was Tom, the investigator. And he wasn't alone. The twist was simple. I had been watching the wrong people. The truth wasn't just hiding in Lily's betrayal. It was hiding in plain sight. And now, I had no idea who to trust, or who was going to come out of this alive. I barely made it inside before the door slammed behind me, a cold gust of wind biting at my neck. My body was stiff, my mind a swirl of thoughts I couldn't quite organize. Tom, the investigator, was leaning casually against the wall, arms crossed, his eyes steadying me with a mix of amusement and concern. "You shouldn't be here, Ethan," he said, his voice calm but firm. The word stung. I shouldn't be here? I was the one being played, and yet here he was, acting like I was the problem. "Where is she?" I demanded, stepping forward. My voice was rough, the anger still fresh in my chest. "Lily. I know you're working with her. Where is she now?" Tom's gaze flickered for a brief second, just long enough for me to notice. Something was off. "I'm not here to help you, man," he said, his tone dropping. "I'm here because I was hired to watch you." The words hit me like a punch to the stomach. "What do you mean?" I whispered. "You're not working with her?" He shook his head. "I'm not here to explain that. You need to know that your wife, Lily, she's not the woman you think she is. There are bigger things happening here, Ethan. And you're in the middle of them." I stared at him, confused. "Bigger things? What the hell are you talking about?" Before he could respond, the sound of footsteps echoed down the hallway, and a voice I knew all too well called out. "Ethan, what the hell are you doing here?" I turned, and there she was. Lily. Standing in the doorway, her face tight with anger, but also something else, guilt? Fear? Maybe both. But it didn't matter. "You lied to me," I said, my voice low and shaking. "You've been lying to me for months. I know what you're doing with Derek. With Victor. I know everything." Her eyes widened slightly, but she quickly recovered. "You don't know anything, Ethan. You're jumping to conclusions." "No," I said, taking a step closer. "I'm not. I know about the money. The deals. The fraud. I know about everything." Lily's gaze flickered to Tom, then back to me. She took a deep breath. "It's not what you think," she said, her voice trembling just slightly. "But you're right about one thing. I've been hiding things from you. But not for the reason you think." I felt my pulse quicken. There it was, the opening. "Then tell me. What's really going on? What have you been doing?" She took another deep breath and stepped forward, lowering her voice to a whisper. "Ethan, I'm not the one you should be angry at. You're being used. And I'm just as trapped as you are." "Trapped?" I couldn't hide my disbelief. "You've been using me. We've been using each other." Her eyes darkened. "No. You don't understand. Victor Hayes isn't just some CEO. He's dangerous. He's been manipulating everything. Derek, me, you. Everything. He's been pulling the strings, Ethan. And now he wants us both dead." I froze. The air in the room thickened, the words hanging between us like a weight I couldn't lift. Dead? You're telling me that I'm in danger? Yes, she said, her voice low, barely a whisper. Victor's been playing a game this whole time. He doesn't care about us. He only cares about one thing, getting his hands on everything we've built. The business. The money. The power. And he'll stop at nothing to get it. Why? I asked, my voice shaking with confusion and fear. Why would you? Because I had no choice, she cut in, her eyes wide with desperation. You don't know what he's done, what he can do. He's blackmailing me, Ethan. He has information on my family, on my past. I've been forced to play along, to pretend, to protect us both. But now it's gone too far. He's made it clear he's taking control of everything. I took a step back, my mind racing. And Derek? Is he in on this too? Lily nodded, her face pale. Yes. Derek is working for Victor. He's been the one moving the pieces around. But now, I can't keep playing this game. I don't know what to do anymore. We're out of time. I looked at Tom, who had been standing silently behind me. He stepped forward now, his expression serious. You can't trust anyone, Ethan. Not Derek, not Lily. Not even me. I shot him a look. What do you mean? You've been following me for days, why didn't you warn me? I wasn't hired to warn you, Tom said simply. I was hired to keep an eye on you. To make sure you didn't get too close to the truth. But now, it's too late. They're coming for you both. And there's no way out. The words hit me like a sledgehammer. I felt dizzy, my head spinning. What are you saying? Are we in danger right now? Tom's eyes darkened. The danger is already here. And it's not just your life anymore. It's everything. Victor has eyes everywhere. He's got people in places you wouldn't believe. And now that he knows you're onto him, he's not going to let you walk away. I turned back to Lily, my mind struggling to process everything she'd just said. Victor Hayes. Derek. A conspiracy so deep that everything we had was just a lie. Lily, I whispered, I can't let this happen. We can't let him win. Her eyes flickered, and for the first time, I saw fear in them. Ethan, you don't understand. He's already won. He's got everything in his grip now. He controls this entire situation. And if we don't do exactly what he says, it's over. Suddenly, the sound of tires screeching outside broke the tense silence. I rushed to the window, my heart pounding as a black car skidded to a stop at the curb. They're here, Lily muttered, her voice barely above a whisper. Victor's people. A loud knock echoed from the front door, followed by a voice I recognized. Mr. Miller, it's time to come with us. I turned to Lily, my hands trembling. What do they want? She swallowed hard. They're here to finish what they started. The final twist hit me like a freight train. I wasn't just fighting for my life anymore. I was fighting for everything I thought I knew. And the game had just begun. The air in the room was thick with silence, thick with the weight of secrets I couldn't quite understand. Derek's car was still parked outside, but he wasn't the problem anymore. Victor Hayes was the problem. The man pulling the strings from the shadows. He had been manipulating everything, my wife, me, this entire mess. And now, it seemed like he was going to finish what he'd started. I turned toward Lily, her face pale, eyes wide with terror. You didn't tell me everything, did you? I whispered, the question more of a statement than anything else. This isn't just about Derek, is it? It's about Victor. You've been playing me from the start. Her lips trembled, and she stepped back, almost as if she wanted to distance herself. But she didn't. She stood there, knowing this was coming. Ethan, Don't, I snapped, the anger rising in my throat. No more lies. I want the truth. All of it. Her voice cracked, but she didn't look away. I never wanted it to go this far. I never planned for any of this to happen. But Victor has something over me. Something I can't get out of. And now it's too late. Too late? I felt my blood boil. You've been working with him all this time. You've been covering for him, lying to me, while I thought we were in this together. We're not in this together, are we? The words hit her like a slap. No, she whispered, we're not. It felt like the ground was being ripped out from under me. Lily's betrayal, her confession, it wasn't just about the affair anymore. She wasn't just sleeping with Derek. She was involved in something far more dangerous, and I had no idea how deep it went. I felt the rage building, hot and fast, but I kept it together. I couldn't afford to fall apart now. Not when I had so much at stake. I turned to Tom, who was still standing in the corner, watching the scene unfold. You knew about this? I asked, the edge in my voice sharp. You knew she was involved with Victor? That she was part of whatever game he's playing? Tom didn't flinch. I knew some of it, he said quietly. But there's more. Much more. You're not the only one in danger here, Ethan. Victor's been making moves. Big moves. You're just the latest piece in his puzzle. I ran a hand through my hair. How do I stop this? How do I get her out of this? Out of his control? Tom looked away. You can't. Not unless you have the right leverage. But even then, you'd have to deal with the bigger threat, Victor's people. They'll stop at nothing to protect him. I clenched my fists. It wasn't just about saving Lily anymore. It was about saving myself. I didn't know how long I stood there, listening to Lily's quiet sobs, trying to come to terms with the truth. My mind was racing, calculating the next move, but all I kept hearing was the sound of Tom's warning. Victor Hayes. Victor Hayes had been controlling everything. Every move. Every step. And now, he was coming for me. I grabbed my jacket, my chest tight. I couldn't stay here any longer. Not with them, not with the lies. I needed answers. I needed to confront Victor, to end this once and for all. As I stepped out the door, the weight of what I was about to do settled on my shoulders. I was playing a dangerous game. I wasn't sure who the real enemy was anymore. Victor. Derek. Lily. But I couldn't afford to hesitate. The stakes were too high, and every second I wasted was a second they could use against me. I didn't have much of a plan. But I knew one thing, if I didn't act, I was going to lose everything. And I couldn't let that happen. The drive was a blur. The streetlights flashed by in a steady rhythm, but my thoughts were anything but steady. The pieces were starting to fall into place, but it felt like I was putting together a puzzle without all the pieces. I knew Victor had a plan. I knew I was part of it. What I didn't know was how deep the conspiracy went, or if there was anyone I could trust anymore. As I approached the intersection, a sudden thought hit me. What if I was walking right into a trap? What if this was all part of Victor's game? He had eyes everywhere, and he had control over everything. Even my own wife. I took a sharp turn, my tires screeching against the pavement. I couldn't wait any longer. I couldn't keep wondering. I had to face it. I had to face him. I parked near the old warehouse district, a place where the shadows seemed to swallow up everything. This wasn't just some chance meeting. This was deliberate. I knew it. Victor wanted me here. He'd planned for this moment. I stepped out of the car, the crunch of gravel beneath my feet sharp in the silence. The air smelled stale, like old metal and decay. I couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching me. There was no one in sight, but the hairs on the back of my neck stood up. I wasn't alone. I moved toward the door of the building, my heart pounding in my chest. Every step felt heavier than the last. As I reached for the handle, a voice echoed from behind me. Ethan, it said, low and dangerous. You shouldn't have come. I spun around, my hand instinctively reaching for the gun at my side. And there he was. Victor Hayes. The man who had been pulling the strings all along. The tension in the air was palpable. Every instinct told me to run, to get out of there before it was too late. But I couldn't. This was it. This was the moment where everything changed. Victor's eyes narrowed, a slow smile creeping across his face. You think you can stop me? You think you can take me down? I took a deep breath, my voice steady. I'm not here to take you down. I'm here to end this. The sound of footsteps echoed from behind me. They were already closing in. I didn't have much time. The air was thick with tension as I stood face to face with Victor Hayes. The man I had been chasing, the man who had been pulling the strings from the shadows, now stood before me, unfazed, too calm, too in control. The truth I had been so desperate to uncover, was now out in the open, but I wasn't sure if I was ready to face it. The building was eerily silent, save for the faint hum of the overhead lights, buzzing in the background like an ominous warning. I glanced quickly around the dimly lit room. Shadows stretched across the walls, and I couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching me. The game was far from over, but I knew one thing for sure now, there was no turning back. Victor's smile never wavered as he took a step toward me, his eyes sharp, calculating. You've been a thorn in my side for too long, Ethan, he said, his voice low, almost conversational. But now, it's time to end this. I clenched my fists, trying to steady my breath, but it felt like the walls were closing in. Every moment that passed felt like I was sinking deeper into quicksand. What do you want from me? I shot back, my voice hoarse. What is this all about? His smile widened, but there was no warmth in it. You really don't understand, do you? You're nothing but a pawn in this. A piece on the board. Everything I've done, every move I've made, it's all been for the bigger picture. The one you couldn't see. And your wife? She was a part of that plan, too. I could feel the anger rising in my chest, but I swallowed it down. This wasn't about rage anymore. This was about survival. I took a deep breath, staring into Victor's cold eyes. You had everything, Victor. Why take more? His laugh was dry, almost mocking. Power, Ethan. Power isn't just about having things. It's about control. And control isn't real unless you have everything. Money, influence, people. Even you. Especially you. I didn't have the luxury of waiting any longer. Every second counted. I reached for my phone, my fingers shaking, and quickly dialed the number I knew by heart. Tom. The investigator. He had been my lifeline, the only person who had been feeding me information as I descended into this nightmare. If I had any hope of getting out of this alive, it was now or never. The phone rang, each second echoing in my ears like a countdown. Tom, I said when he picked up, trying to keep my voice steady. Victor's here. I need you to move. Now. He didn't respond immediately. The delay was unsettling. I glanced at Victor, whose eyes were narrowing, suspicion creeping across his face. I had to act fast. Do it now, I repeated, more urgent this time. Before I could say another word, the line went dead. My stomach dropped. Tom's warning was clear. If you don't act now, you're as good as dead. I didn't have much time. Victor was already moving closer, his steps slow, deliberate. You think you can just waltz in here and stop me, Ethan? You've lost, and you just don't know it yet. I couldn't let him get to me. He thrived on fear. He thrived on breaking people. But I wasn't going to be his victim. Not anymore. Just as Victor took another step toward me, the sound of sirens rang out, breaking the tension in the air. A bright flash of lights filled the small, darkened room. I looked past Victor and saw a car pull up outside. A few moments later, the door to the building swung open, and men in tactical gear flooded the room. Victor's expression shifted. He wasn't prepared for this. He had underestimated me. One of the officers stepped forward, pulling off his mask. It was Tom. "Ethan, you all right?" I couldn't hide my relief. "Tom, you were following me?" "Had to make sure you didn't screw this up," he said, his voice grim. "We've got the entire operation on record. The money laundering, the blackmail, everything. We've got enough to take him down for good." Victor's face twisted with rage as he turned toward the officers, but it was too late. His empire was crumbling. I could see it in his eyes, the realization that he'd lost. That the game he'd been playing for so long was finally over. As the officers moved in to arrest Victor, I stood there, numb, my mind still racing to catch up with what had just happened. I had won. But the cost was high. Lily was still behind me, standing in the shadows. I could feel her presence, but I didn't turn around. I couldn't. Not yet. "You did it," she said quietly, her voice barely above a whisper. I finally turned to her, seeing the tear-streaked face of the woman I had once loved. But there was no joy in my heart, no sense of victory. Only the cold, hard truth that the woman I had built my life with had been a part of something far darker than I ever could have imagined. "Lily, what now?" I asked, the words heavy in the air between us. Her eyes welled with tears. "I don't know, Ethan. I don't know." And that was the truth. We had both been lost in a game of power and control. But now, as the dust began to settle, I realized something else. It wasn't just about who had the most power. It was about what you were willing to sacrifice to keep it. And in the end, no one truly wins when they lose themselves. I walked out of the warehouse, the cold air hitting my face. It was over. But the scars would stay. Scars of betrayal, of trust broken, of a game I never wanted to play. I didn't know what the future held. But one thing was certain, I was done being controlled.